Greetings. So today is the first day of a series of talks on the 7 factors of awakening. And these talks, there's 7, so I believe the plan is I'll be able to do 7 days in a row, including Saturday and Sunday. And so for those of you who like to do the whole series like that, the 7 factors of awakening are, to introduce them, that Buddhism is less a teaching as it is an instruction. And it's an instructions of how to wake up. And these are these 7 factors of waking up are the inner capacities we have that mature and grow in this process of becoming awake. However, the word awake, often the translation of bodhi, and Buddhism comes from this idea of bodhi, bodhiism, Buddhism, awakeism, the ism of being awake. But the word that bodhi also means wisdom and understanding and knowledge. And sometimes just the word awake, becoming, awakening in Buddhism, doesn't leave any clear kind of. It's not so solid. It doesn't have not really have a rooted in something substantial, in a way that the word bodhi is knowledge or understanding or wisdom. Has a little more feeling that we're connected and involved and seeing the world in a clear way. And these 7 factors of awakening are part of not only of the goal of Buddhism to become free and liberated, but I also see them as a wonderful framework or exploration for how to enter into the world with capacities to live in the world in a healthy, balanced, supportive way. We bring these best qualities with us into our attention to the world, our witnessing of the world. And perhaps we can call them the 7 factors of witnessing, that if we really want to see what's happening in our society, we might want to consider how we see it. It's very easy to get caught up in our opinions and our thoughts and our reactivity, our fears and our angers and our distress, and lose touch with a deeper capacity to really, in a qualitatively wonderful way, to really see deeply and experience it deeply in ourselves, so that we become changed, so that we are really touching into the depths of our capacity to care, or depth of our capacity to engage in ways that are free, that are not caught by hate or caught by greed or caught in fear. So I'm hoping as I go through these 7 factors this week that we can consider that how they might come into play as we read or watch the news, or as we encounter in our neighborhood some of the challenges that exist, and as we reflect on our relationship to this world that we live in, that we can reflect more deeply and more fully from this place of that the 7 factors of awakening point us to. I think of the 7 factors of awakening as being the sap in the tree of Buddhism. The Bodhi tree kind of represents Buddhism, the tree of the ficus tree that is called the Bodhi tree that the Buddha sat under. So this idea that tree represents Buddhism, and then the nourishment for it, what keeps it alive, the sap of it, are these 7 beautiful qualities inside that get awakened in practice. And these are mindfulness, usually called mindfulness, investigation, effort, joy, tranquility, concentration, and equanimity. And around the edges of those are other important qualities of mind and heart as well. But these are kind of the core that the Buddha emphasizes, 7 factors of awakening. And he sometimes gave a very simple kind of path of practice from beginning to end. And that would be a person would first let go of the 5 hindrances, then cultivate the 4 foundations of mindfulness, and then develop the 7 factors of awakening. And often the juxtaposition is that as the 5 hindrances decrease, they're filled, that space that's created in the mind is filled in by the 7 factors of awakening. So when forces of greed, of ill will, sloth and torpor, restlessness and regret and doubt decrease, then that space is available for, in the mind, in the heart, for mindfulness, investigation, effort, joy, tranquility, concentration, and equanimity. So the first factor of awakening is mindfulness, and it's not simply just being mindful, but it's really being really settled into the mindfulness, really having it beginning to flower, and the awareness begins to have a little bit of a life of its own, where when it's really strong, it's really hard not to be mindful. It's kind of like this is what is coursing through us. This is what's most alive. This is what's this life force of awareness is what has space, and everything's been cleared away, and it's a fantastic feeling to be really established in mindfulness. This idea of sati and mindfulness, the way it's talked about is that it's not just mindfulness we're cultivating, but it's also mindfulness awareness centered on 4 subjective areas of our life. And these subjective areas of our life are not meant to be at exclusion of the world around us, but rather to really tend to the subjective way that we are, so that how we are subjectively can be in harmony with the external world, or be connected to the external world in a good way, and hopefully attuned to the external. So the inner and the outer become attuned to each other in an important way. But the idea is to start here in the subjective experience, and there are 4 areas. There's the area of our physicality, be attuned, be aware of our subjective experience of being in a body. The subjective experience of the feeling tones, the hedonic tones of pleasant and unpleasant. The subjective experience of states of mind, how our mind is. And the subjective experiences of the inner processes that come into play that keep us either contracted and caught, or which allow us to open up and be free. And these subjective experiences then, the Buddha called the ancestral homeland. They are the place of refuge. That we have a refuge inside, in a certain way, being with our subjective experience in a certain way, is a place of safety, is a place of deep home, being connected here. And so what is it to really rest or be at home in oneself? It's an experience that not many people have. There's a lot of challenges that people have, and tremendous challenges in this life, that sometimes make it very hard to feel that you can rest or trust or really settle in to your direct experience here and really feel it. And part of the process of practice, sometimes for years, is this noble and wonderful path of awakening the deepest capacities we have to be aware. Exactly what awareness is, my favorite translation for sati is not mindfulness, but rather awareness. But what sati is, what awareness is, we probably don't want to specify too exactly, because it's probably some combination of all the different attentional faculties we have. This miracle of attention, this miracle of how our psychophysical bodies can have the capacity to register, to perceive, to take in a tremendous amount of information that we call through the vehicle of attention or awareness. And so we have the ability to know in our minds. We can know what's happening. We can recognize something. We can recognize that I'm breathing. We can recognize that this is an inhale and this is an exhale. We have the ability to feel, to sense the experience of breathing. We can sense and feel the pressure and the release of pressure, the movements of the body as we breathe. As we breathe in, we can feel the expansion of the rib cage, perhaps, and as we exhale, the collapse of it. And so this idea we can sense physically, almost like we're getting a massage, is another attentional faculty we have. We can be aware of the feeling tone of the experience. We have these nerve endings that allow us to feel pleasure and pain. And so to feel what's pleasant and unpleasant in the experience is a very important part of the human experience. And that also, we can tune into the pleasant and unpleasant of this. And that allows us to make adjustments sometimes and to appreciate more what's pleasant and nourishing and supportive. And even with the breathing, it's possible to sense what's pleasant in the breathing and what maybe is not so pleasant and uncomfortable. And to learn how to be attuned and aligned and aware of these pleasant and unpleasant in a supportive way, so that our willingness to be here and present for it all is stronger. It's also possible to just settle back and observe the experience. The vipassana means to see clearly, and the idea of seeing is a metaphor which the Buddha used a lot and very prominent in Buddhism. And so the idea that somehow with the inner eye we're kind of settling back, and the image that is used actually sometimes in the suttas is leaning against a tree with a pasture in front of us and just kind of allowing the mind to gaze and be aware. And for me, it's kind of like leaning against a tree and watching a river go by. This sense of ease and relaxation, settling into oneself, and they're just watching the phenomena flow in a nice, comfortable, easeful way as you watch the river go by. So this capacity to observe is also part of mindfulness. In fact, traditionally, the capacity to observe is considered a very advanced form of mindfulness practice. So in saying all this, I'm saying that we have a lot of different attentional faculties. Another one that the Buddha didn't talk about is proprioception. We have awareness of where our body is in space and where the different bodies are in relationship to each other in space. So when we say the word here, what I'm pointing to is the capacity to settle back, open up, and allow all the doors of perception, all the ways we have to be aware, to be open, to not go out to experience, not try to make something happen, but to see what, all the windows are open, what breezes come into the house, what smells from the garden come into the house. So when you sit and open here, and for me it's kind of like a movement of both opening and settling, to say that here, and just like here, and then when I open my hand to here, then the sensitive part of the palm is available to feel and sense what's here, that it can't feel when it's closed up. And so for mindfulness to be this natural capacity for attention, to give it a chance to operate, to give it a chance to be here. And so the single word that I like to use to represent the practice of mindfulness is the word here. And you might, as you go through today, say the word, regularly to yourself, not the way that you would say command to a dog to come here, but rather almost like a lover, almost like just here, like a gift, here. Here I am as a gift, and experience what it is, what's here. And if you're reading the news or watching the news, is there some way of watching deeply and fully and even feeling all the difficult emotions that might come, challenging, strong emotions that might come? Is there some advantage, some benefit to waking up to here in the middle of that? That gives more space for that allows it to be there somewhat independent of the reactivity and the rush to judgment, the rush to contract or give up or something here. And then each day I'll give a different word for the 7 factors of awakening, a little practice word that kind of hopefully can open this experience for you as you go through your day. So the 7 factors of awakening are in you. They're part of you, they're in you. And may this practice awaken what's in you, these wonderful qualities, so that you can be a benefit to this world. Thank you.